Hey everybody, welcome to our channel where we are doing a very deep dive in a very brief amount of time into the New Testament from the very beginning, from Matthew all the way to Revelations. If you're an agnostic, if you're an atheist, if you're a devout Christian, and you really want to learn more in extreme detail, you've come to the right place. And right now, we have about 4 questions for the Bible in about 4 or so minutes. And we're in Matthew chapter 3. This is the introduction of John the Baptist, where he starts these proclamations and yelling in the woods and such. And in verse 3 of chapter 3, this is a blatant attempt to connect Jesus to the Old Testament by quoting Isaiah. And he quotes Isaiah completely out of context. And it says, quote, "Make ye a straight path for the Lord." That if anybody knows, and if you don't know, I encourage you to study antiquity and how these scribes work and exactly what they were attempting to do here. It's a literary tool to make something out of nothing. And that's not to be offensive or bashing Christianity. It's just not a legitimate connection. And number 1, the first question, did anybody catch on to the Lord, make a pathway for the Lord? The King James Version, this was really simple because we broke away from the church. Well, I say we. I didn't break away from anything. England broke away from Catholicism. They created their own church that was supposed to take the place of Catholicism. And then, of course, they had their own translation, the King James Version, very popular version in the United States. And they use the word the Lord a lot. And, if you're a king and you're ordering the translations, you want certain things to reflect royalty and the respect for the Lord, the word Lord, because there are many lords that rule the masses. I'm just curious if anybody caught on to that when you say the Lord, how that is tying in to royal families and respecting them. It's fascinating to me. And so number 2 is chapter 3, verse 4, describes the humble clothing of John the Baptist. So this guy is super humble in his dress, and he eats locusts and honey. The question is, what percentage of today's population and the population at the time would follow somebody who is eating locusts and honey? I'm going to go ahead and say a small number, unless you are just some kind of over-the-top charismatic person. I'm just curious if you scholars or people that really have an answer for that. I would like to know, and I think a lot of people that study the Bible would like to know that too. Because today, if you saw a poorly dressed person eating bugs and a little honey, you would think they were out of their mind. You just would. And number 2, or was that number 2? No, we're on number 3. Chapter 3, verse 5 and 6 says that John the Baptist travels about Jerusalem and Judea and around, where the Jordan is, the Jordan River, where he baptizes people, where they confess their sins. At this time, they are using a practice from the Hasidics and the Essene, those Jews, and that makes this is an ongoing practice. But I'm not so sure from what I've read and all the antiquity about these things, which is a lot. I don't know where. I can't recall anywhere where it says they were confessing in there. It was a way to cleanse their body and their soul. It was like a ritualistic practice. And so these people in the area were already used to this sort of thing. So it wasn't out of the norm for them to go into the water to get dunked. But the question is do those religious rituals, how did the confession part come? Because now, at that time, they're not getting baptized to go see Jesus or in the name of Jesus because that wasn't a thing yet. It hadn't happened yet. So the question is, where in the Old Testament does confessing at baptism take place, and how are they trying to rewrite Jewish rule or Jewish law and such? Is pretty fascinating. If you are interested in other topics totally outside of the Bible, searching for ways in a very spiritual way, because I believe that the universe connects to us all. The earth has its own frequencies. Our bodies have their own frequencies. People that we interact with, we either resonate with them or not. We talk about topics that help us use our critical thinking, practice the art of listening and communication so that we can build trusting, good relationships with the people around us, our spouses, our family, our friends, so that we can ultimately communicate with the divine, the source of all things, in a better way. Through our meditation and practicing the art of critical thinking and using compassion and some love in our hearts. And you can find all that on our other channel, Mystics of Texas. And also you can find out more about us, mysticsoftexas.com. And if you're in the local area, which is East Texas, 30 minutes from Shreveport, about 20 or so minutes from Marshall, or right on the state line, we'd invite you to come out for our Sundays. We get together every Sunday at 1:15, and it's really a lot of fun. And we always cook, and it's really mind expanding and heart expanding and spiritually rewarding. So with that, thanks for joining us.